This is a tutorial on how to make a realistic torch fire using Davinci Resolve Fusion. Go to Fusion page, and the first thing we're going to do is to introduce a couple of nodes. The emitter node and the render node. Without render node, we wouldn't see much. If I just throw emitter into the viewer, as you can see, nothing's happening. But once we connect emitter over to the renderer node, throw render in, we can see the emitter, but it's in a 3D mode. So we have to change 3D to 2D. While having the render node active, go to the right side panel and select 2D mode. The next thing we're going to do is to work the emitter. Make the following changes to the emitter. First, increase the number of particles to 20. The number of variances, leave at 0. Lifespan, this is how long the particle lives. Enter 35. Lifespan variances, we want some particle die sooner and later. Let's have it at around 57.5. Color, leave it to use style color. Leave the position variance as is. Temporal distribution, make it randomly distributed. And leave everything else, velocity, rotation, and spin as default. Switch and tab from controls to style. For the style, choose blob. Increase noise all the way to 1. For the color control, use this hashtag number, BCBAB6. Leave color variances as is. For the color overlay control, let's make a couple of changes. We want particle to start with this color, hashtag FFAA81. Close to the middle at about 0.58, use the following color, hashtag FFD0A1. And at the very end, use the color hashtag FF8F5. Make the following changes to the size control. Increase the size to 1.5. Size variances to 0.5. We want those blobs to vary heavily. Size to velocity, decrease down to minus 0.117. Size to Z scale, increase it all the way. For the size over life, make a similar curve as shown in this graph. Fade controls, no changes. Merge controls, subtractive additive, leave it at 1. And no changes to the burn-in. For the region tab, make sure the region is set to sphere and the size is equal to 0.12. And so in the moment, what we've got is a bunch of blobs forming a sphere. If we play along, you'll see, looks like a boiling sun. That's a good start. What we want to do now is to force those particles to move. For that, we have to introduce another node. It is called directional force. And we're going to drop it right between the render and the emitter. Make the following changes to the directional force. Leave random speed as is. Increase strength to 0.1. Direction should be equal to 90. This represents the angle. We want those particles to fly up. Leave direction Z as is. Now our particles should look something like that. If we are to play forward, you'll see that now our particles are flying straight up. The next node that we want to introduce is something called turbulence. On your keyboard, press Shift Space and then type P turbulence. There it is. Let's add the node and let's drop it right after the directional force, like that. We don't have to make any changes to the turbulence settings. We will use it as is. What turbulence does is randomizing the direction at which particle flows. This will help to make it more realistic at the very top, where flames break off. The next node we want to introduce is spawn. Type P spawn, add a node, and place it between the turbulence and render. Make the following changes to the spawn node. Number is 0.1. Number variance, keep it 0. Lifespan increase to 30. Lifespan variances increase to 7.1. Keep color at use style color. No changes to the position variances. Temporal distribution randomly distributed. We don't need to make any changes to neither velocity, rotation, nor spin. On the Style tab, choose Blob Style. Keep nose at 0. For the color control, use hashtag FFC9AA. No changes to the color variances. For the color overlay control, let's make the following changes. From the start, we want the color to be hashtag B0723F. At around 0.176, change the color to hashtag DC994C. At around 0.76, make a color hashtag FF0000. And that's all we have to do for the color. For the size control, increase it to about 0.18 and keep the rest default. The reason we introduced p-span node is because we want to have those little sparkles. It is subtle, but it makes a difference. The next node we want to introduce is kill. So we want to type P, kill, choose the node, and we're going to place it between the spawn and render. Make the following changes to the p-kill control. Leave random seed as is. For the conditions, we want to increase probability to 0.33. And for the age, the start, let's change it to 0.267. The kill node helps us with the control of the flames. We can reduce its lens down to the manageable size. Essentially what it does, it determines at which point the particle is going to be completely destroyed. Next modifications we will do to the render node. Make the following changes. For the blur, increase to 2.4. Have a glow to around 0.4. Blur blender at about 0.685. We want those particles to look slightly blurred, so they're not over-sharpened. And also we want to add a little bit more glow. To keep our workspace organized, combine those nodes into a logical group. If you forgot how to do that, if you have nodes, simply highlight them all. On the keyboard, Shift plus space, and type UND. This is underlay, click OK, and there you go. The next group of nodes will represent the smoke. I already prepared those. What we are going to do is to introduce them one by one and make necessary changes to their configuration. We'll start with the emitter, make the following changes, change numbers to 10 and lifespan to 87. Everything else leave to default. Then move on to the style tab. We are going to change style to blob, keep noise at 0. The color, hashtag is pure white. For the color over life control, make several changes. The smoke will begin with the following color, hashtag E2DCD6. Then at about 0.11, we're going to change color to hashtag 27E2F. The next change occurs at 0.176. The color is hashtags 3B, 3D, 39. Moving on to the next one at about 0.585, hashtag 6D7068. And at the very end, the color is hashtag DCD3C5. Moving on to the size control, change the size to 6, size velocity minus 0.211, and make a similar chart for the size over life. For the fade control, make a change to fade in, type 0.05, and in the region tab, make a change to the size of the region sphere, make it 0.12. On to the next node, directional force, make the following changes, reduce trends to 0.028, direction should be 90 degree. Next node is turbulence. You can copy it from the fire itself. Just select it, Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, and we can place it into the workflow. The next node is new one, that is a point force. Make the following changes as you can see on the screen. This will help us to apply some pressure. Next node is spawn. You can copy this node once again from fire. Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, and place it into the flow. Next node is kill. Make the following changes as you can see on the screen. Pretty much only change the age start. Make it 0.47. And here is what our smoke looks like. As you can see, it is shaped and under control. By the way, depending on the need, you can play with all of those nodes in fire and the smoke to make whatever suits the situation best. The next group of nodes will represent the burning smoke. Simply copy the smoke itself, Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, and you can make it to the burning smoke. All what's left to do is to make necessary changes to each node, starting with emitter. Sometimes they will be identical to what we've done for the smoke. So only make a change wherever you see there is a necessity to do so. Moving on to the style. As you can see, similar style. The control color itself is the same. The only changes we're going to make is to the color of the smoke itself. The starting color is hashtag FFD4. B1. Then moving on to the point 65, the color is pure black. And the very end, the color is hashtag EAE5D8. In size control, make sure that the size is 8. By the way, if your slider does not allow you to go to 8, simply type over and it will take the change. Size to velocity minus 0.211. And for the size over live, make a similar chart. For the fade control, make a change to fade in, type 0.811, and keep the rest as is. For the region, make sure that the size is reduced down to 0.079 and make a couple of changes to the offset, the X offset and the Y offset. We want to reposition the burning smoke slightly below and to the side of the actual smoke. That will help with the visibility and also the illusion where the smoke is supposed to be darker because it's close to the fire. The next node is directional force. Make changes as you can see on the screen, followed by the turbulence. Moving on to the point force, as you can see already, our smoke is slightly changing. It has a darker color from the beginning, and it whitens up the more it travels away from the fire. Next node is spawn. Again, we want those flakes. Next node is kill. We want to condense that to a particular area, which is closer to the flame. And now, if you play, you see what the burning smoke looks like. The next set of nodes will represent the fire core. This is very beginning of the fire. That region has slightly different texture and a color itself, depending on the source of the fire. So we'll start with the emitter, make changes as you can see on the control panel, change the number, change the lifespan, change the lifespan variances. On the style tab, make sure that the style is set to blob, increase noise all the way to 1. The beginning of the color is hashtag BCBAB6. Now color over live. So this one is the very beginning where the source of the fire initiates. So depending on what that is, let's say if it's a little bit of a gassy one, then maybe you want to start with the blue, just like I did. But if it's a different source, then you have to make a decision. Should it be hot red? Should it be hot white? Should it be hot yellow, etc.? Whatever the fire source is. The next variation of color starts at 0.585, hashtag FFD0A1, and the color at the very end of the core fire is hashtag FFF7F4. For the size control, make the following changes to the size to velocity, and for the size over live, make a similar chart. For the region, reduce the size down to 0.09. Make necessary changes to the X offset and Y offset. We want to bring the core fire down below. It will sit beneath all other nodes, main fire, smoke, and burning smoke. Next node is direction. Make a change, as you can see, mostly to the strength and direction if needed. And the next node is kill. We want to condense it so it does not travel too far, and it sits right at the beginning. Make a change to probability and make a change to age. This time we will introduce the transform nodes. We need to transform each of the group of nodes that we've just created, the main fire, the smoke, and the burning smoke. Each of those will have its own transformation point. We have to connect each render node to transform node, like this. And now for the smoke, and for the burning smoke. We need transformation node because we want to shape the fire. At the moment we have a circular blob. That's not how the fire looks. So we have to do some stretching and reposition. For the main fire, make the following changes to the transform node. Make a change to the center X and Y, and also make a change to the size. Now the fire should look something like this. This is without transform, and this is with the transform one. The next one is for the smoke. Make the following changes, as you can see on the screen. And the very last one, it's burning smoke transform node. Make the following changes. And this is what it looks like with transform off, transform on. At this point, we can work on the appearances. We have to make some changes to the way the fire and the smoke looks. So we're going to introduce a new set of nodes. In this group, we're going to have 3 nodes: motion blur, vignette, and glow. For the motion blur, Make a change to its type for better and motion range medium. Now we're going to keep this node off because we only want to turn it on when we do the final render. Otherwise, it will significantly slow down your computer. For the vignette, make the following changes. Operation mode to advance. Keep the size shape oval. Make a change to the size, anamorphism, and a center position for X and Y. Increase the softness, and that should do it for this node. Onto the glow, make the following changes, as you can see on the screen. And now we can connect transform to the motion blur. And if we have to drop the glow on the screen, this is what it looks like now. So if I click on the effect, this is what it looks like without glow and vignette. With the vignette node, we control the very end of the fire. If we were to turn it off, as you can see, it's overly bright. So we want to dim those, the very end of the flame tails, make it slightly darker. And the glow will help with the visual appearance of the fire. And if we are to play forward, this is what we've got so far. Another group of node is needed for the very same thing that we've done for the fire. Now it's going to be for the smoke. We have two nodes here. One is motion blur. As you can see, it's very similar. The type is better, range is medium. And once again, keep it off until the final render, unless the computer is fast enough. And the second node in this group is glow. Make necessary changes, as you can see on the screen. We can now connect transform to the motion blur. And if we have to throw glow into the viewer, that's what it looks like. This is without glow, and this is with. Subtle change, but it makes a difference. What we want to do next is to merge fire and smoke. So we are going to introduce the merge node. From the fire effect, starting from the glow, we are going to connect to the yellow rectangle because we want to be fire at the background. And from the smoke, starting with the glow, we want to connect to the green triangle. We want smoke to be at the top. Now let's throw merge over here. As you can see, now we have both fire and smoke merged together. We also need to make a couple of changes to the merge node itself, particularly for the apply mode. Make sure it is changed from normal to lighter. This will help with the more roasty look around the edges of the fire. We will continue connecting the fire, the smoke, and the burning smoke. For that, we're going to introduce another two nodes, the merge and the light ray. The light ray is only needed for the burning smoke. This is why this node sits separately. We're going to connect transform to the burning smoke, the light ray. Now make a changes, as you can see on the screen, to the light ray. And what it looks like is like this. This is without, this is with. We want to connect it to the merge node and make sure that the light ray is connected to the green one. That is a foreground. And we want to connect the merge node from the fire and the smoke to the yellow rectangle. And if we throw this merge node over, this is what it looks like now. Play forward. All right, we are getting somewhere here. We now want to connect the fire core to the rest of the flame and the smoke. We will introduce another set of nodes. The first one is halation. There are changes to make. Go over the settings and make those adjustments. For the transform node, make the following changes. We can connect the render to the halation. Then we're going to connect the merge node that combines fire main, smoke, and burning smoke. We're going to connect it to the yellow triangle. And if we were to drag and drop this merge node over to the viewer, watch what happens at the bottom of the fire. At its core. And when we play forward, this is what it looks like. I'm ready to work with the environment where I want to place this fire into. These nodes will represent the background. This is what it looks like. And I want the fire to be right there. I would have to make several changes in order to fit it on the screen. For example, I have to make it up to scale. See, it became bigger. I need to make some transformation changes. I only want it in the middle of the scene. These nodes represent light changes to the environment because we're going to place fire. Obviously, there has to be some reflections going on. And now I can connect it all together. So I already made the media out, the glow, the merge, and the polygon node. This polygon node is needed to mask unnecessarily flames or smoke that may be spilling out. We don't need it below the base. It shouldn't be there. Now we are to connect the whole ensemble. Fire, smoke, burning smoke, and fire core. We're going to place it onto the merge, connecting to the green rectangular. We want it to be in the foreground, and our background, we are going to connect to the yellow triangle. And if we are to throw the media out, this is the fire. Let's activate polygon. As you can see, we took care of the spill. And the last change over here is to make it glow, the whole scene. Now we play forward and let's see what it looks like. Not bad, not bad. We can move onto the main stage. On the color page, there were several nodes made, mostly to control the environment. For example, this node introduces another light rays. This is the difference it makes. Next node is to control the color to the left of the flame. As you can see, from gray to slight orange. The other node is to introduce flickering, so we can have some variations in luma. The next node is have a halation around the fire. That's what it looks like before and after. We also want some flicker around the fire as well. The other node is dehaze, and just a slight change into the tone. This is a flicker, that's another reflection next to the couch. And this is the overall vignette. Just to make it a little bit more gloomier. Obviously the flame isn't going to lit up the entire room. And remember, before you do the final render, make sure that you turn on both motion blur for fire and a smoke. Now I'm playing forward in real time. As you can see, it's rather slow, it's very demanding on the computer. But here is what it looks like at its final stage. And one note on the vignette, on the fire main, when it's on, it will also produce a dark looking clouds. And if that's what you're looking for as well, then make sure it's on. But if you don't need it, then turn it off. And it will be just a smoke and a fire without the afterburn effect. Once render is complete, this is what the fire is going to look like. Pretty cool, eh?